brought us on, and throughout the days and time, different people have come in at different stages of the journey. And we want to have some time to slow down and invite people into the story of a beloved community, Alhambra. Get to know a little bit more about who we are, some of the DNA that shapes what we do, how we do, why we do it and stuff. And then have a little bit more of a talk of like what it even means to plug in covenant membership here and stuff. Give people some time to ask some questions and then go home and think and pray, whatever it is. But that's this Wednesday at 6:30. There is childcare. There should be a QR code somewhere, probably in your hands, because someone gave you something on the way in with that QR code. I want you to hit that QR code. There's way more information than what I gave you just now, but take the time, sign up. We need to make sure we got the right head count so that we will know how many people we're going to see on this Wednesday. That makes sense? Right? We want to bring you into the story. We love you. This Wednesday on the 21st, there's going to be food. We're going to be hanging out. So check that out, all right? QR code is right there. You can use your phone, hit that, and then finish filling it out after the sermon, all right? So sign up because we want to make sure your kids don't be sitting outside. Last week, so we're in Hebrews chapter 10, verses 26 to 31. But before we jump in over there, last week, I just want to remind you, I know there's some people that wasn't in here last week and with the sermon. I just love what God was doing here with us, where we was in Hebrews 10, verses 19 through 26, right? And when we was in there, the Lord, he reminded us of the confidence that his son put on flesh, entered humanity, conquered death so that we would have. And he was reminding us of that, how he's been telling us about this for the last 9 chapters, building on it and making sure that you can't find some type of theological way to not understand this confidence that we now have in him, regardless of the brokenness that we have inside of us. While we was listening and understanding that confidence, we was called to use that confidence to draw near to him. It was like, oh, you got all the confidence in the world. Here's what you do, draw near. You have the type of confidence that when you draw near, you can draw near with sincerity. You don't have to put on any masks. You don't have to pretend. Because this God who's calling you to confidently come near to you loves you and knows you thoroughly and deeply. So he told us to come with the confidence and assurance that faith gives, which is even way more assuring, because it wasn't saying come with your list of all the things that you did right. Because the flip side of that is all the things that you did wrong, that's always hemming you up. Nah, just come. And we was called to use that confidence to hold fast to what we professed. Not to just think about it up inside the air, but that we need to hold on to it, because there were so many things that's going to come, and you're going to have to hold on to what you are professing. And with that confidence, use that confidence to encourage one another. Because just because you have that confidence does not mean you don't have an enemy who's going to work sun up to sundown to cause you to doubt that confidence and all the ripple effects that comes along with it. It said they encourage one another. And there was a line that we didn't spend a lot of time on right there when it said encourage one another. It said at the end, it said encourage one another all the more, right? All the more, basically, like the idea is it's happening increasingly more and more and more and more as you see the day approaching. We didn't spend a lot of time there. But it was something that they knew. They're like, yo, everything that you're doing, continue to encourage one another and keep ramping it up as you see the day approaching. This approaching day that it was talking about was referred to as the day of the Lord. Jews believers always believe in a day when God will come and he would make all things right. He would fix the brokenness inside of this world. He would right all the wrongs, all the sufferings. He would judge the nations. And the thing is, he would judge it with righteousness. A type of righteousness that we don't even get the depths of. So we can rest. And this is the hope. This is the hope for all of us as believers. Now for us as believers in Christ, this is anchored in Christ. This reality is in him. He is that king. He is that king that is coming. He's going to return. And my king, he will judge with righteousness. And in the meanwhile, knowing that he's coming to restore his beautiful creation that has been scarred by the ripple effects of sin, and that we all caught up in the midst of all of that. He wants us to know you have every reason for confidence. But as you open up the door with that amount of reason for confidence, you have to balance that with absolute truth. So I want to ask you to stand with me this morning. And we're going to read the rest of that sentence or that flow from verses 26 to 31. Starting at verse 26, if we deliberately keep on sinning after we have received the knowledge of truth, no sacrifice for sins is left, but only a fearful expectation of judgment and of raging fire that will consume the enemies of God. Anyone who rejected the law of Moses died without mercy on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. How much more severely do you think someone who deserves to be punished, who has trampled the Son of God underfoot, who has treated as an unholy thing the blood of the covenant that sanctified them, and who has insulted the Spirit of grace? For we know him who said, "It is mine to avenge. I will repay." And again, the Lord will judge his people. It is a dreadful thing to fall into the hands of a living God. This is the word of the Lord. You may be seated. (26 and 27). If we deliberately keep on sinning after we have received the knowledge of truth, no sacrifice for sins is left, but only a fearful expectation of judgment and of raging fire that will consume the enemies of God. The truth about what this text is going at with deliberate sin. Well, first of all, there's a problem with the way we preach, the way we lay things out, because we put chapters and verses and everything else, and we break things up in so many pieces, right? And we come in and we start right here, right here inside the conversation. So I want to back up some to set the tone for where the conversation is going, because he's talking about something. He's having a conversation, and in this conversation is like, let me tell you about this deliberate sin. You see, first and foremost, the context is that these are all people who have chosen to follow Christ. That's what I want to start there. These are all people who at some time or another has said, I believe he is God. I believe he is the King of Kings. I believe he is the Lord of Lords. I want to follow him with my life. They have received the knowledge of truth. At some point in time, this is the conversation. They're talking to a bunch of people who they all know. One day said, I see the Lord. This knowledge of truth. Christ is that truth that they received. That word knowledge, it implies relationally. And they have proclaimed Jesus as the way. They have proclaimed it, tooth and nail. Swords drawn towards them, kicked out of families, homes. Nah, he's king. But because of fear and ongoing persecution, many are choosing to stop following the way. They're starting to think this way is the wrong way because it's not easy enough. I thought mom and dad would eventually let me back in. It's not easy enough because I can't go to another funeral. It's not easy enough. Probably we was wrong. Probably we should stop. Probably we should turn away and go back. But there's a conflict with what they already know, though. As they enter into this, are they thinking about returning to the Mosaic law and everything else that they just love? There's a problem. See, to know Jesus is truth. This isn't just information. This is experientially. Not just, I read a text, someone told me this. They tasted and seen. They sat with at a table. They heard, they wept. Oh, to confess that he is the way, the only way. And that the other way is done. And then choose to discontinue following, to turn back away from what you know to be the only way. Not to continue. This is the sin in question. Here is the context of all of Hebrews. They was going away. Let me tell you what this isn't. This isn't about struggling. It's not about doubt. It's not about questions and even relapses. It's not about the saint who keeps repenting and going back to the foot of Jesus. Help me out with this. It's not about that. It's not about that at all. It's not about messy human weaknesses because he fills in all of the cracks. It's about willful, settled, continued rejection after receiving what you know to be true. It's about that ultimate sin of rejecting the only means of reconciliation. But the only means. You see, sometimes our friends, our loved ones, people that we know, even inside of our own heart of hearts, we've rejected Jesus already at our heart level. And we're still like sort of just going on. And then there are usually fruits and signs of the warfare, even signs of decay. And that's why Hebrews is saying this safety zone is community. because they will see those things even if they can't put a finger on it. And that's why last week's text said, encourage one another, ramp it up as you see the day approaching. Remind each other of the confidence we have in Jesus. Sometimes, though. Sometimes we want to please people and not offend, telling them about how they are offending Jesus. That really wouldn't be pleasing to them, and they might say something off-putting if I tell them how unpleasing your spirit, your heart, the way that you have disregarded the Son. I'm thinking it. I won't say it. Telling them the true reality. If they reject Jesus, sometimes we want them to continue trusting Jesus so much. And we think about texts like this that have been so abused, so butchered. So we want to try to sort of kind of protect them from Jesus by minimizing what we do, and we give half-truths instead of whole truths. What if the dentist never told you that if you keep eating candy and you never brush your teeth at all, your teeth might fall out because you got so much money and the dentist did not want to lose your business at all? And the dentist knows you're arrogant, you're prideful as you're arrogant. But the dentist knows this. Or what if it was a doctor that knows you have a very, very unhealthy practice that's killing you? But he also knows you got a really deep bank account, and so long as you don't tell them the truth, they'll slide them dough. Would you say he was a good doctor or a dentist? The author of Hebrews is being a good minister. A good minister of gospel, being a good sister or brother, a good friend. They know the ones in mind have heard so much of the grace side of the conversation. Oh, well, they themselves have spent 9 chapters building on why you have every reason for confidence. But there's another reality of truth. If all of this is treated with contempt, if all of this is just ignored, there is a different side that I love you too much to not say. You may choose to reject this, but if that's the case, it's important that you know that there is no sacrifice for sin left. And this is where I turn the music down. I know I said it several times while the music was bumping and while everything else. This is where I tell the kids, hey, I need y'all to go outside for a bit. We got to have a little conversation. Because if Christ is the final sacrifice, follow the flow. If Christ is the final sacrifice, then rejecting Christ means no sacrifice remains. Follow the flow. There's not something else to return to. There's not an alternative route. We're tempted to think that we'll just hang out in the neutral zone somewhere. We like to think the idea of neutrality. I'm hang out somewhere inside the middle and then pick what I want and go back to the middle and pick what I want and go back to the middle. But Hebrews doesn't pretend that the middle is a safe zone. That's not what it's doing right here. Outside of Jesus isn't neutral, it's adversarial. Because rejecting the Son is rejecting the only reconciliation that God has given. He didn't give a different one. It's rejecting his plan of the restoration of all things. This is when that friend looks you in the eyes and tells you the truth, what you can actually expect outside of Jesus. Because I know the world done lied to you. In Christ, we are the most confident people on the planet. We have nothing at all to fear. Our King has conquered death. He sits in the heavenly realm, the control room of existence, our King. And we are united with him. But like I said, this world would do everything it can to masquerade and lie and deceive us to believe that outside of Christ is more freedom. The lies are dressed up in every language and cultural expression. But don't get it twisted. Outside of Christ, we have everything to fear. It's not here you fear, but there's nothing to fear, and you may go somewhere. Outside of Christ, you have everything to fear. Here's what you can really expect if we reject the love that put on flesh for us. As opposed to confidence, you can expect deep fear. Not from the unknown. There's certain things that you can expect. You can expect judgment and raging fire that will consume the enemies of God. It doesn't create a neutral zone. Because at this point, the God of creation has sent his only Son, your only way of salvation. So all who are his friends and all who are his family will be united with him as he removes all causes of evil. He assumes it is an either or. All causes of evil. Matthew 13:41-43, the Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will weed out of his kingdom everything that causes sin and all who do evil. They will throw them into the blazing furnace, where they will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Whoever has ears, let them hear. Well, what happens if you have ears to hear? You have heard and you have agreed, but now you refuse to listen. You refuse to value all of the signs, all of the warnings along the way. The people of God has been on a journey, and there have been all these signposts pointing to Jesus. And now Jesus has come. And what happened if we ignore all the signs? In 2024, there's this driver in North Carolina. There was a hurricane, and the hurricane had washed out the bridge, right? And so they put up all these barricades and all these signs. But for some reason or another, the driver of the car went past every barricade, every sign. And there was the road was gone, and they went off the cliff. And the authorities kept out. I don't know why. They ignored every single sign. And that's the question that they kept on asking. Past the barricade, there wasn't a safer alternative route. The road was gone. This is the field of verse 26. Reject the only sacrifice. There isn't another safe sacrifice waiting. 28 to 29. Anyone who rejected the law of Moses died without mercy on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. How much more severely do you think someone deserves to be punished who has trampled the Son of God underfoot, who has treated as an unholy thing the blood of the covenant that sanctified them, and who has insulted the Spirit of grace? Consequences and repercussions. This is a movie back in the day with Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence, and Eddie Murphy is in jail, and there's this bully that wants to take his cornbread. And he's like, yo, don't touch my cornbread, because I'm telling you, there are going to be some consequences and repercussions, right? Sometimes we need to make some weighty comparisons about things when we're thinking about the reality of consequences and repercussions. God has designed life in such of a way that life teaches us about consequences and repercussions when we constantly ignore wise counsel. Life will teach you that. I don't need to open up the Bible for that. Life will teach you. You constantly ignore wise counsel, consequences, and repercussions. Well, Hebrew makes some weighty comparisons of these consequences and repercussions. First of all, he does it with something very familiar to them. They were very familiar with the Mosaic law. This is what they want to go back to. Well, he said, well, okay, you're familiar with the Mosaic law. Well, in the Mosaic law, here's what you know. If people ignored the law that they knew, you just need the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, and they would stone you to death. The concern was that if you was ignoring the law and you was practicing idolatry and staying inside the camp, that the rest of the camp would think like these are okay, and they would practice idolatry as well. And he's saying, you know that, but you also confessed that whole law, which is a whole shadow system, was all pointing to Jesus, and he is God in the flesh. He is the Son of God. You confess that. And if you confess that, and you know in the law system, then how much more do you think here? Just how much more do you think here? We live in a world that continues to show that the tension doesn't change that. The persecution doesn't change the reality of the brokenness inside of this world. This world has trampled the Son of God underfoot, and they nailed him to the cross. This world has treated the very blood that sanctifies them as an unholy thing. It's not a situation of neutrality. Spirit of grace has been deeply insulted. He said, outraged the Spirit of grace. To reject Christ after tasting grace becomes an insult to the very source and agent that brings grace near. To reject him, if you understand what the text is saying, to reject him, to reject his grace, is to participate in the trampling of the image of the living God. To participate with it. To reject him is to treat his blood, his sacrifice for you, like that was just a common thing, an everyday old animal sacrifice. And it was the God of the universe. Hebrews uses violent, relational language because this isn't just spiritual, it's natural. We look around inside the culture around us, this is what we see in a culture in the land where the trampling of the image of God is baked into the systems. You see systems that treat image bearers of God as disposable. we as believers, we sit inside this text and we understand whenever human life gets treated as common, something holy is being mocked. Because every person bears the image of God. What happens when trampling the image of God is a way of life. We see things like what happened with Renee Good, and then you see defenses that dismiss it without valuing the trampling of an image bearer. You see a murderer walking away, calling out the B word, but you don't see anyone standing up and saying, this is wrong, and the image bearer is trampled over. And as believers, we can't play the role of neutrality because we know and we understand our God isn't neutral. Let me end with 31 and 30. 30 and 31. With all of this, he says this. For we know him who said, it is mine to avenge. I will repay, and again the Lord will judge his people. It is a dreadful thing to fall into the hands of a living God. Verse 26, it talks about them receiving the knowledge of truth. That's a relational statement. Receiving the knowledge of truth, that they accept the truth, who is Jesus. But he anchors us in what we know about the character of the judge. The living God's hands are either a refuge for those that are in Christ or a terror for those apart from him. When you are confident in the hands of God, those hands are different. When you are confident in the hands of God, because he comes and he lays hands on everybody. But when you are confident of who you are in the hands of God, those hands, for some there's peace. Because it's the hands of the person that came to protect them. It's the hands of the person that came to hold them. It's the hand of the person that came to right all the wrongs that this world has done to you. So those hands are hands of peace. But for some, those hands are dreadful. Because you participated in the trampling of his image in the land as he dispersed inside of the land. The trampling of his blood was treated as unholy. But the start of understanding and reconciling that is coming to him. So let me end this with inviting us all to worship and to pray. For instance, probably there'll be some people over here to pray with you. Probably hearing this, you're like, man, I want someone to sit with my heart and just pray with me. Because I don't want to keep playing around. I really want to accept my King. When I think about his hands, it doesn't feel comfortable to me. It feels fearful, and then at the same time, I feel drawn. I want you to hear him say, come. As the day draw near, come. If this sermon has pricked your heart in such a way that you're like, Lord, I just want to hear you, I want you to say, come. We want to pray with you. In the meanwhile, I invite every single one of us inside here to worship the God of creation. Let's worship.